Hello, instructional designers. This is Brent D, host of the Dick and Carey podcast. Today, we're going to be covering the method of our podcast's namesake. That's right, the Dick and Carey model. I will briefly summarize the 9 steps of the D&C model, give an example of how it could be implemented, and briefly reflect on my experience with D&C in the classroom. We have little time for this episode, so let's get right down to it. 1. First, decide on the broader instructional goals to be achieved. What do you, or the client, or the students themselves want to get out of the learning experience? Imagine we need to teach a lesson to university students on how to write business emails. A broad instructional goal for such a lesson could be for students to demonstrate how to effectively write a business email to North American standards. 2. Next, the designer must analyze the prior skills and knowledge students need to start the learning experience. In order to learn how to write a business email, university students must already have ample experience with email, its uses, and how an email is composed. 3. Now we must determine more about the specific learners we are working with. This analysis focuses on students' traits, preferences, motivations, and so on. For the business email lesson, we learn the students are not native English speakers studying in U.S. universities. Such students are more likely to be motivated to master North American business practices, like email, in the hopes of gaining and keeping employment in a Western-style company. 4. Return to the goals for our course and determine more specific performance objectives. What are the essential skills students must execute by the end to demonstrate their learning? So, in this business email lesson, one performance objective could be students correctly open and close the body of a business email using standard North American language. 5. How are we going to check our students' grasp of the course contents? The next step is for us to design evaluation methods to verify students' learning. Again, in the business email lesson, an example might be a short email composition before beginning the lesson. This would let the instructor know whether the students need the instruction or not. 6. The designer must begin to formulate the instructional strategies to be used, such as lectures, projects, technological aids, etc. For the email lesson, students would complete the entire lesson using learning management software. A brief instructional video, supplemental information, and an interactive quiz are just a few instructional tools that could be used. 7. Now we compose and create the instructional materials outlined in the previous step. This means setting up the LMS, writing and recording lecture materials, formulating quiz questions, etc. 8. Before unveiling the course on students without knowing its impact, wouldn't it be good to pre-test the course first? To do so, formatively evaluate the course by finding one or more test students to see how they fare with the course materials. With the business email lesson, perhaps a test student finds the lecture video too difficult to understand. Through feedback, the problem could be isolated and lecture materials modified. 9. Now we can find out if the course actually worked. At the end of instruction, a summative evaluation tells us if the students accomplished the outcomes set out for them, and what changes may be needed for future instruction. Perhaps most students did not fulfill a given performance objective. Under scrutiny, we may find the objective was not appropriately measurable and should be revised. Well, listeners, as a classroom instructor for nearly 15 years, I can personally attest to the effectiveness of the Dick and Carey model. I have used and internalized most of the steps of this process throughout my years of instruction and curriculum design. The only area I wish I would have been able to implement more effectively would be formative evaluation, as I rarely pre-tested a lesson before unveiling it. Certainly, I will try to do so in my future instructional designs. How about you? Did you find anything in the D&C model that you may have missed in your instructional design and implementation? please leave a comment below and let us know. But that's all for now. Thank you for listening, and don't forget, keep learning.